Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the director of the Massachusetts General Hospital Cancer Center, Dr. Daniel Hebert.
Good evening. Thank you all for joining us to celebrate the 100. Congratulations to all the honorees, and special thanks to the event committee and our co-chairs, Steve, Laura, Jay, and Susan, and to our sponsors who made this night possible. It's really an honor to be among you with tonight. I'm also delighted to see so many members of the MGH community, including our president, Dr. Peter Slavin, the CEO of the MGH Physician Organization, Dr. David Torchiana, the CEO of Partners, Dr. Gary Gottlieb, and the chair of the MGH board, Kathy Minahan. Let me start with a story. A few months ago, a man was referred to the Mass General Cancer Center from another academic medical center. A year ago, he had been a successful executive with a family and 4 children, but now he had advanced lung cancer and was progressing despite all available treatments. He was incredibly sick, with blood clots in his lungs, infections, and all kinds of complications in addition to his advanced cancer. He came to MGH because we were leading a clinical trial with a new drug against a mutation in the ALK gene. This is a specific type of lung cancer which can occur usually in non-smokers who develop lung cancer at a young age. It turns out that lung cancer with ALK gene mutations are rare, but if that's the type of lung cancer that you have, then as many as 75% of patients have dramatic responses. Based on this Mass General-led study, the drug company Pfizer has decided to seek FDA approval for this new genetically based personalized lung cancer therapy. Some patients who enrolled in the study were referred by their physicians, and others referred themselves after watching the ABC National News about the research study at Mass General. And like this man, most have shown an extraordinary response using this new treatment. We expect that it will change the standard of care for this type of lung cancer. But I chose to tell you this particular story of this particular patient for another reason. When he was seen late one Friday afternoon, he was so sick that he needed to receive his experimental drug immediately, and if it was going to have any chance of benefit. Now, it can take several weeks to do the necessary testing to enroll a patient on a clinical trial like this, with all the standard and specialized laboratory tests, including the genetic test to determine if the tumor is positive for the mutation. This patient did not have several weeks. What happened that Friday, well into the night, was that all the staff came in and stayed late. The research technicians, the molecular pathologists, the research pharmacists, clinical trial organizers, from the nurses and physicians at MGH to the research coordinator at Pfizer. They did whatever it took to make sure that this patient could receive his first dose on that Friday. I learned about this the following day from the treating physician, Dr. Panos Phidias, who was incredibly moved, so much so that about all the research and clinical staff that they all put in such an effort without question. In their eyes, they were just doing their job. This is such a powerful story because it encapsulates the very essence of the Mass General Cancer Center, cutting-edge science hand in hand with truly compassionate care. The Mass General Cancer Center was created to integrate the very best of science with the very best of patient care. These collaborations have yielded a number of discoveries that are shaping new clinical paradigms in clinical cancer research and clinical care worldwide. In addition to the ALK gene research in lung cancer, led by a team of Drs. Eunice Kwok, John Iake-Frady, Jeff Clark, and Alice Shaw, we're also incredibly proud this year of our melanoma expert, Dr. Keith Flaherty, who is leading national trials in melanoma that target BRAF gene mutations. His story, you may have seen, was featured on the front page of the New York Times for 3 days in a row, which really highlighted the passion, the heights and the lows of being on the forefront of this new revolution in personalized cancer therapies. And we're equally proud of Dr. Jennifer Temmel, a 100 honoree who conducted the first ever randomized clinical trial demonstrating that integrating discussions about treatment choices together with quality of life and palliation right at the time of diagnosis leads to strikingly improved survival in patients with advanced cancer. This research on quality of care, just like the research on cancer genetics, will be published and widely read, and they're both likely to change the standard of care in cancer treatment. Thank you. This year, we're also proud to announce that Dr. Rakesh Jain was elected to the National Academy of Sciences, that Dr. Anthony Zeitman was appointed president of the American Society of Radiation Oncology, and that the entire Department of Radiation Oncology under Dr. Jay Loeffler was the first of any major academic medical center to receive American College of Radiology accreditation. And in surgical oncology, MGH is at the very cutting edge of minimally invasive surgery for both diagnosis and resection of cancer. The Chief of Surgical Oncology, Dr. Ken Tanabe, is advancing the field of cancer prevention as it relates to suppressing the progression from liver cirrhosis to liver cancer. And despite the significant financial pressures on both research and clinical efforts, this has been such an exceptional year for the Mass General Cancer Center that I want to single out a few more great accomplishments. Our oncology nurses and nurse practitioners have not only maintained the exceptionally high level of patient care for which they're well known, but they've also developed new approaches to inpatient coverage that will be fully implemented with the opening of the new oncology floors within the MGH building for the third century. Barbara Casciavelli, Maribeth Singer, and Kathy Furlani are among the nurses who have taken a lead in research on quality of care and quality of life, and engaging with our new Center for Survivorship, co-led by oncologist Inga Lennis and by psychiatrist Bill Pearl. Knowing how best to take care of survivors with cancer is one of the most important lessons that we're learning from our pediatric colleagues who have been curing many children with cancer, many cancers in young children now for generations. We're incredibly proud of their dedication, as we are of Dr. Paula Rausch, who founded a program to help parents with cancer cope and help their children cope with their disease. Of Lori Kubicek, a musical therapist in our HOPES program, who This is our State of the Cancer Union speech, so I'll wait for all the applause lines. We're incredibly proud of Lori Kubicek, a music therapist in our HOPES program, who uses music to help patients through their cancer treatments, and all those who help patients and their families in their time of need with a gesture, a smile, or a hug. The 100 tradition at the Mass General Cancer Center goes to the heart of who we are, what we do, and how we do it. Each and every one of our 100 honorees this year has a special story. With us tonight are individuals like David Koch, who established the Koch Institute for Integrative Cancer Research at MIT. Billy Starr, who founded the Pan-Mass Challenge. Kathleen Loeb from Stand Up to Cancer. Doug Ullman and Morgan Binswanger from the Lance Armstrong Foundation. And a number of representatives from the New Balance Shoe Company, all of whom have raised and donated millions for cancer research. And right next to them are the Dunleavy family and the Scott family, who have They were faced with the tragic loss of a child and took on the challenge of raising money for cancer research in the memory of their loved ones. And with us tonight, among the 100, we have the famed multiple Boston Marathon winner, Bill Rogers. And the wife of our clinical leader, Davy Ellen Chabner, who has raised over $150,000 by running our marathon team. Now, our 100 honorees tonight also includes 2 Nobel laureates, Dr. Phil Sharp from MIT and Dr. Jack Szostak from Mass General. Now, I'm sure you can tell from the intellectual vibrations in the room that we have 2 Nobel laureates present at the Westin tonight. In fact, they're here incognito, sitting at different tables. So the odds of having a Nobel Prize winner sitting at your table tonight is actually 1 in 30. So we recommend that you say DNA and see what happens. Finally, we have one special guest I would like to acknowledge, who was elected as a 100 honoree based on decades of seminal contributions to improve treatment for women with breast cancer and for his international leadership of personalized cancer therapy trials. He comes from Barcelona. His name is Dr. Jose Baselga, and I'm delighted to introduce him as our new Chief of Oncology at Mass General and Associate Director of our Cancer Center. Jose, would you please stand up? Now, I want to conclude my remarks tonight with a special announcement. This fall, we will publicly launch our Mass General Cancer Center fundraising campaign as part of the hospital's overall $1.5 billion campaign. As an extension of the 100 concept, it will be called Strength in Numbers, and will have the goal of raising more than $350 million to fuel research, clinical care support programs, and education. So far, we have raised over $145 million towards this goal, thanks in part to many people in this room tonight. So thank you for joining us tonight in celebration of this year's 100 honorees who have contributed so much to the battle against cancer. This has become an annual tradition of the Mass General Cancer Center, and one that we cherish, and one that will continue year after year, 100 after 100, until we have finally conquered this disease. Thank you. I'm now delighted to introduce one of our honorees, Dr. Jack Szostak, the Alex Rich Distinguished Investigator in the Mass General Department of Molecular Biology and the MGH Center for Computational and Integrative Biology. He's a professor of genetics at Harvard Medical School and investor of the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. Jack, wait 1 second. Jack also received the 2009 Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine. Jack is generally described as quiet yet intense, brilliant yet modest.
I'm not Jack, but Jack had to leave. He had a medical emergency, so he's okay, but just he had to take off. But just so you know.
We'll continue to praise Jack in his absence and hope everything goes well. Although the jokes won't be quite the same without him here. But Jack is a regular guy who just happens to be obsessed with figuring out the origin of life on Earth. The fundamental discovery for which he shared the Nobel Prize with Dr. Liz Blackburn from UCSF and Dr. Carol Greider from Johns Hopkins relates to the very tips of chromosomes called telomeres. Every time a cell divides, its telomeres get a little shorter. And after 40 or so cell divisions, a cell reaches its limit, its biological clock, and it can no longer divide, except for stem cells and germ cells that are supposed to divide forever and which have learned to keep their telomeres from shrinking using the telomerase gene. Cancer cells, in their evil wisdom, have stolen the strategy, and they too achieve cellular immortality by preventing their chromosomes from shrinking with each cell division. A discovery made by Jack Szostak 20 years ago ignited the study of telomeres and launched an entire field focused on aging, cellular immortality, and the control of cancer cell proliferation. Jack's research then and now is the epitome of unbridled science driven by curiosity, which can uncover completely new insights into fundamental truth about cell biology and can have transforming yet unpredictable clinical implications. He's an inspiration for the entire research faculty of the MGH. If you'll watch with me.
Dr. Szostak was named a co-recipient of the 2009 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. I'm nominating Dr. Szostak because the same work which led to his Nobel Prize has led to major advances in our understanding of cancer. It may also lead to future breakthroughs in cancer treatment. By lucky coincidence, he also happens to work in a lab with the letters MGH on the door. Collaborating in the 1980s to solve a puzzle in the mechanics of DNA reproduction, Dr. Szostak and his fellow Nobel laureates found out how cells protect the tip of their chromosomes during cell division. By studying the single-cell protozoan called tetrahymena, they found that long stretches of DNA called chromosomes have a protective coating at their tips, just like a shoelace has a plastic tip that prevents its ends from fraying or unraveling. To Dr. Szostak's amazement, the telomere tips of the protozoa also worked when transplanted into yeast, pointing to a fundamental mechanism of biology conserved across millions of years of evolution between different species. Yeast cells that didn't have these protective chromosome tips couldn't maintain their DNA and couldn't survive as they tried to reproduce their chromosomes. We now know that in human cells, telomeres also regulate their ability to divide forever. Germ cells that are programmed to be immortal through many generations make telomerase to protect their chromosome ends. Normal cells in our tissues that are supposed to have a limited lifespan don't. Most people think that the problem with cancer cells is that they reproduce too fast. But as I learned during my treatment, the bigger problem is that cancer cells have learned to imitate germ cells and make enough telomerase to keep them dividing forever without damaging the tips of their chromosomes and limiting their lifespan. It's impossible for a layman, that would be me, to fully evaluate the importance of Dr. Szostak's work. But any cancer survivor, and that would also be me, knows that cancer cells have a reproduction problem. They're just too good at it. Just think what it would mean if we could find a way to deny cancer cells their immortality. Think what it would mean to find a way to make them die a timely death.
Thank you very much, and please enjoy your dinner. We'll be back later.